All right. Hey, good evening, folks. Just trying to get set up here. And as usual, always looking to make sure you can hear me. Every time I do one of these, that's like first thing I got to do. That's why I usually start a little early, just to make sure that I can be heard. It's never good just talking to yourself. So do me a favor, hit the chat, say hi, tell me who you are, where you're from, and let me know you can hear me or not. Because if you can't hear me, then I got to make a quick, fast adjustment here before too many folks join. So let's hear it. Can you hear me? I think I got a pretty good story to talk about tonight while I'm waiting to get going. And again, can you hear me? Or how's that go? Can you hear me now? Make sure my mic's on. For some reason, Windows and YouTube don't always talk the way they should together. So I got 3 of you here so far. We're early. That's good. But again, can you hear me? If you don't tell me, I won't know. I'll be talking to myself and you'll be like, who's this guy talking and what the heck's he saying? Because I can't hear him. So I will double check a couple things while I wait to see what's going on here. Microphone is Quadcast. Okay, so you should be able to hear me. According to my settings, I should be being heard. But again, until someone lets me know, I won't know for sure. I could turn my gain up a little bit too, just in case it's a bit low. But again, let me know you can hear me. We're at 5:28, so I'm just waiting to really wait till we get to 5. Knock my mic around. I like to wait till I get to after 5:30 and we get a few people here. But do me a favor, drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're from, who's here, so I know who I'm talking to. It's always nice. And also drop a comment in the chat and let me know that you can hear me or not. Because if you can't hear me, I need to figure out why not. Perfect. Awesome. Josh, thank you for that. Doing these lives, folks, it's always a challenge because I'll tell you honestly, because I have 2 mics, one that I use typically for my voiceovers when I'm doing my videos, and then one that normally I like to use when I'm doing lives, and that's on my camera. But because I mostly don't do lives, I mostly just do video, and I'm always using my main mic for my voiceovers on that. I forget to change it. And so what I've had happen before is when I go to do a live, I think I'm on the webcam mic and my main mic is turned off and you can't hear me. So, so we don't want that. So while we're waiting for folks to join, the first thing is, how cold is it? So I got a bit of a story to tell you tonight as I do my little channel update. I always do before I answer questions. And speaking of questions, if you've joined because you've got questions to ask, be sure to put them in the chat as soon as possible. I will get to every possible question I can. I don't think I've ever missed a question. So I always try to answer any questions you have. I answer any and all questions. So you want to ask me questions about sawmilling, I'm going to answer them. About sawmills or about whatever it is about the sawmilling, cabin building, off-grid stuff, whatever. I answer those. YouTube, I answer them. Life, you answer them. What bourbon I'm drinking, I'll answer it. So anything. I'm an open book, guys. I don't really, doesn't matter to me what you ask. I'm happy to answer it. So, but usually I wait a little bit and, try to get a few folks. I think everybody does that, right? Excuse me. And so what I'll do is we'll give it, are we at 5:30 yet? We're at 5:30 now. I usually give it a couple minutes after that. Make sure that, there's always going to be a few latecomers, but I do have, I think what's going to be an interesting story to tell you, which will be a video later. But I think you might, at my expense, you might enjoy it. We'll see. It's kind of funny. Sometimes things happen, and when they happen, it's like you're just cracking up. right? And then later you try to bring it all back and you're like, well, was that really that funny? So we'll see. We'll find out if you think it was that funny. Maybe, who knows? We'll see. But it involves LiFePo batteries, sub-zero temperatures, and the realization that I was about to lose $3,600 worth of an investment if I didn't do something. All right. -1 in Terre Haute, Indiana. Well, you're colder than we are here. Obviously, I'm at home, and if you don't know, for those that don't know, my cabin property is actually 240 miles north of me. And so where I live, we're actually in the high desert of eastern Washington. So a lot of folks, when they think of Washington, it's all green, right? Well, not really. 2/3 of the state is really more brown than green. And so it's desert here, and we live in a bit of a bowl that tends to be kind of warmer than areas around us. It's not uncommon for us not to have snow and everybody else around us to have snow. But I think it was, well, let me look while we wait here. And let me know if you're in a super cold area. Let me know. Oh, 13 degrees here right now. So we're warming up, but we had some cold weather here recently. All right. Again, throw your questions into chat if you've got them, especially if you had one. If you joined for a specific question, make sure you throw it in there, or just say hi, tell me who's here and where you're from. It always helps. But I'm going to go ahead and do, let's see, it's 5:32. That's fine. I'll give you a little channel update, let you know what's going on, what's coming up in the future. So I made a commitment probably about 3 months ago, I'm guessing, to continue doing 3 videos per week into the foreseeable future. And I'm going to continue to try to do that. Though I'm going to be honest, the cold is definitely going to make that, well, more difficult to put sawmill videos out versus, say, shop and cabin type videos, which I know most of my audience typically watches mostly the sawmill stuff, and maybe 30 to 50% of you are into the off-grid kind of stuff like that. So I realize for those that are just interested in sawmill content, this is the slowest time for me. I don't typically run the mill when I was, well, let me rephrase that. I didn't typically run the mill when I was running the business this time of year. I just wasn't going to risk my mill, driving down icy roads, in December and January. So I typically didn't do a lot of milling in these months unless the weather was warm. I had my mill here though. And so if the weather was decent, somebody came along, then yes, I would, drive the mill out somewhere and run it then. So typically on my channel, it's reflective of what I'm typically doing right now. So, and I'm using typically really too much, aren't I? But so this year's a little different because I've got the mill at the cabin and it's going to stay there. And so I will be milling. And I will tell you, if you watch the video that went out yesterday and you're wondering if I was going to get back to milling or not because of the battery, the truth is I did. So that video will be coming out sometime next week. I'm going to say next Saturday. So there will be 2 videos before then, and then there will be the Saturday video. And one of the videos coming up, I think Thursday's video, is about production and whether or not you really can produce the numbers that the manufacturer says you can produce on your sawmill. So you might find that one interesting. Hey, John, there you are. -2, -20 wind chill. Not far from Terre Haute. Okay, so you guys are really close together. So John Davis from Davidson's All Natural Gym. Good to see you here, buddy. And we have got to get together on SteamYard, whatever it is, and play with that a little bit. Maybe with this cold weather, you and I can get together and work on that. I really need to work on that. I know that it has some features that are better for these lives that you folks would probably appreciate. So anyway, back to the channel. So I will continue to do the 3 videos a week. That's my commitment, to continue to try to do that. There'll probably be a little bit of a change over the next month or 2, where probably sawmilling will be about 1/3 of that, just because of snow, minus temperatures, etc. So, but that's going to continue, and there will be more D-log videos for those that like those videos. And I'm going to tell you, because of you, I finally got off my butt and actually didn't leave the bark on my last D-log. So hopefully you guys enjoy that video. Actually, what's really funny is when I was doing a lot of log work a number of years ago, I always built a log deck for me to peel logs on, and I didn't have the big sawmill then. Well, then when I got my LT40 in 2016, I really didn't do any log work for a long time after that, because I was just running around running my sawmill. So, milling for other people. And it's like the mechanic, right? Your car's the one that doesn't get the maintenance it needs. So in my case, I wasn't working on the cabin or peeling logs and making D-logs. And I started to get back to making D-logs, but I was always in too big of a hurry. And as a consequence, I often left the bark on, pretty much always in the beginning. And you can get away with that in certain months of the year, but you certainly can't in April and May. And because you'll run into pine boring beetles that'll just get in there and start wreaking havoc on things. So a couple of you have mentioned to me, hey, how come you're not peeling your logs? And, and I was like, honestly, because I was being lazy. So there's a change there. That's, again, thanks to you guys. So that's coming up. And then I've also got a buddy of mine, another Marine that, I call him a buddy, but we've not actually met. We've talked a few times. Good guy. You may know him on Facebook. He's Lowell Bloom. He lives near me. And we've been talking about getting together, and I'm going to film his operation and bring it to you as well. So kind of like Kevin Bales, I'll be doing that. And then I'm also going to try to get up and do Michael Weller. He and I have been talking for a long time, another veteran, really good guy, another Million Board Foot Club member. So I really want to get up there and get some video with him. And his daughter actually did a really awesome video that I don't know if she put out or not, but I know he sent it to me and it is out there. But boy, she's amazing. If she wanted to do video like this, for somebody, boy, she's amazing. I guess it was what she was doing in school. So anyway, there's going to be some others, LT70, LT15. I will continue to try to bring you some of these other operations, because I think it's really cool to see guys like Kevin out there running their mills, so that you can kind of just see a different operation and maybe different techniques and styles. Kevin does something that I don't typically do, which is he often measures his pith with his band actually, and a square. So a lot of times he'll run the band into the pith on one end and put a square up on the other end or whatever. And you probably saw that in those videos if you watch those. So, but oh, hi Norleen, nice to see you. Awesome. Hope you enjoyed tonight's little tale. So anyway, without further ado, but channel updates, just basically going to keep going, keep rolling, try to keep 3 a week. I don't foresee changing that right now. Only time I could see maybe dipping a little bit there would be if it just becomes too difficult for me to get the content, but I don't think that's going to happen. And that's the next story I got to tell you. Excuse me. First, I got to have a little throat clearing stuff here. In my cool glass that you can't quite read, but some of you have seen it before. It's We the People. Anyway, I'll just leave it right there. So, a lot of times YouTubers are accused of doing things to get content. Well, I can assure you that is not me. If it was, I'd probably have some really cool content. In fact, one story I've told in the past was, you see all these great videos of bears doing things and whatever. And I was up at the cabin. This was probably maybe last year, spring or something like that, or possibly the year before. I can't even remember now. But I had been running the mill. So it's got to be last spring. Running the mill, got really dirty because, unlike some channels with yoga pants, they never get dirty. Well, when I run a sawmill, I get dirty. So I decided I needed to have a shower. I know, scary thought, right? But anyway, I needed to go back to the back room and change my hot water heater setting, because it's in my superheated, super insulated subgrade back room, which you're going to hear about again here shortly. And so I set my pistol off to the side, and of course I wasn't thinking about a camera, and I ran out there to go get in the room, and you have to kind of remove a bunch of stuff to get in there. And I saw movement, and I looked to my left, and probably not more than 30 feet away, there's a black bear running up the hill right at me. So I yelled at him and chased him off. But I thought, man, if I'd have had a camera, it would have gone viral, right? So I'm not the one that gets those chances. But I did I did go out recently, and I was going to tell you guys this story real quick, while I give you a chance to start asking some questions. And again, throw your questions in the chat because I will get to all of them. So if you have any questions about anything at all that I can answer, I will. But I put in some new LifePo 4 batteries in the cabin this year, and it was a big upgrade. I had lead acid batteries since 2010, and I killed a set of them about 4 years into the first set that I had in the winter, leaving a heat tape on, and just drained the batteries, a couple times, right down to 9 volts on a 12-volt system. And then I converted it to a 24-volt system. And that set of batteries lasted, I think, 7 years before I really kind of started killing those. And it's just one of the challenges of running lead acid batteries at a cabin that's 240 miles away. Excuse me. But so anyway, I put these LifePo batteries in, and I had not intended in leaving them in my porch. But we've been doing okay. The winter, hasn't been that cold. It's been pretty mild. And I was thinking, we're going to be fine. Then I saw the weather for the cabin, and I was actually had just been up there, and it was kind of cold, but not a big deal. But I'd just been up there, and I heard something about a cold front coming in, and I looked at the cold front, and it was going to be a minus 11. So the thing is, my porch at my cabin, I've got a pop can solar heater that I made, but it got so hot that it melted all the insulation, and I had a bunch of problems with it, burned out a fan or whatever, and it wasn't working well enough. So the porch, there's no way the porch would stay warm enough that those batteries wouldn't catastrophically fail, which, if you know anything about lithium, that could be a real major issue. And I ended up doing a bunch of research because I was in a panic. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? Am I going to lose these batteries? And basically the gist of it is I needed to get up there and get up there fast. The problem is, if you've watched my channel, my back's kind of bad. So lifting 80-pound batteries ain't good. And on top of that, that back room that is super insulated that I put in back in 2013, well, it's not finished. And I really didn't want to put them in there because it wasn't finished yet. It's not ready for them. But I had no choice. And so we headed up to the cabin. And when we got there, it was like 13 degrees on the way up the hill. Then it was 11 degrees. And the temperature started to drop like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it was insane. And guys, I actually grew up in Canada, in British Columbia. So I've seen some cold weather. I'm telling you, it was insane. It was like every 10 minutes, the temperature was down another 2 or 3 degrees. And within 3 hours, I guess 3 hours, from the time we arrived there at 2:00 and about 5 p.m. when we decided we were just about done what we were doing, it was already down to like 0 or -2. Overnight, it dropped all the way to -30. And it was absolutely insane. I will tell you, it was so cold. My plan was I would move the batteries, and I thought, I can move the batteries, and I'll just do a couple other things and no worries. And we'll be able to move everything, all the solar power into the back room. That cold, not going to happen. Now, the other thing that was going on is the whole time I'm panicking because the sawmill, and see, there's sawmill stuff here too. I had windshield washer fluid in my lube tank for the sawmill, and it's good to -22. So I wasn't worried about it. I had never seen lower than -22 in the 15 years we've owned the property. So I frankly wasn't worried. Well, -22 might be good, but it got down to technically it was -29. So I say -30, but it was -29. It's plenty cold. I had also checked the antifreeze in the tractor. It was good to -29. And I was going, oh my God. So I didn't have time to mess with the sawmill. So I may have lost the lube valve. If I did, oh well, I'll have to replace it. But I may have. And that's a little disappointing because normally I would blow out the coolant anyway after I'm done for the day, but I was being lazy and it had that -22 windshield washer fluid in there. So I wasn't going to worry about it. So there might be a video coming pretty soon about me replacing a lube valve. And the tractor, I can only hope that we didn't lose some frost plugs or something on the tractor or worse. But we'll see. Luckily, right now, it's only about getting it down to like -4 tonight up there. I say only, but -4 is a heck of a lot warmer than -30. So anyway, I did film that, but I think one of the things about it is it's going to be a little different from my stuff because I really couldn't film what I was doing. Part of it is it was so cold that the lithium batteries wouldn't have lasted anyway. Like my GoPro batteries would have been dead in 10 minutes, if not sooner. But the other part of it is it was just too difficult to try and actually move things and not freeze to death, which we were doing that, let me tell you. I know I came into the cabin at one point and I couldn't feel my big toes, right? It was just insane. And that was in a set of Gore-Tex boots with good wool socks. And there was a breeze. So, if you've got minus 30 and even just a 10-mile-an-hour wind, I'm sure somebody can find out what the wind chill is. It's got to be like minus 50. It was cold. So anyway, yes, I'll keep up the content, and yes, that video will come out, and that'll be a little different probably. But and I did get video. I just didn't get actually doing a whole lot because it was too busy. And what we had to do, I'm telling you, we had to put like a buddy heater on the floor of that back room because the floor was like 20 degrees. With the door open, because if the door was open, you got minus 30 outside, or at that time it maybe was only minus 20. So you got this door open, which is not a door like, if you haven't seen the cabin videos or me open that back room, that door is, there's no hinges or anything yet. I never finished it. So I just set the door down in there. So you got to pull the door out and then pull the insulation out. And so now you just got a great big door opening that allows that cold air to do what? Go down, which is down right into that subgrade room. And freeze everything, but we did save the battery. So, excuse me, crazy, absolutely crazy. The Jeep almost didn't start in the morning. Then while we were trying to pack up on the tailgate, you open the tailgate up. Well, the latch froze completely, but it wasn't froze open. Somehow it had twisted, and it was frozen in a closed kind of back locked position, and I couldn't seem to get it to move. And so I because we were in such a hurry to try to get at least all the 12 volt on the solar panel, at least one set of solar panels, keeping the batteries charged so they didn't die on me. And you have to understand, in that back room, I got to keep some 12 volt fans running. So if I don't hook up a solar panel and a converter for 12 volt, then those batteries would have frozen. I would have been out $3,600. So I couldn't work on the Jeep. So I was actually worried I was going to have to bungee the Jeep door closed to get out of there because of just how cold it was. And meanwhile, my buddy Tim's like, well, don't worry. I mean, snow's dry, so it's it's fine. All's good. It's dry snow. It's this cold, Anyway, so when I do these lives, my goal with these is just to answer whatever questions you have. So obviously, if I can entertain you while I'm waiting on questions, I will. But the object here, of course, is for me to answer whatever questions you have. Milling, whatever, cabining, sawmilling, jeeping, I don't care, YouTube, you name it. You got a question about life, I'll answer it. So, and then meanwhile, I'll just talk about some of my videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this last video, the bent logs. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. If you have, and you got any questions, ask them here. I will tell you, I was a little surprised by the reaction I got. I knew I would get some odd reaction out of that log. That's why I chose that log. I have been asked numerous times to demonstrate what I mean by hooks to the right. And so when I saw that log, my first reaction was, oh, I'm going to cut the end off here. I'm going to cut this off here. That'll get me a log that's at least not twisted, but it probably will still make some twisted lumber, but maybe I can do something with it. That was my thinking. But then I got to thinking about the fact that several people have said, can you demonstrate hooks to the right so that we could really see it? And I was looking at that log and I thought, I can do it. So then I got it up on the mill, and I don't know, did anybody notice what I had to do to the deck before I got the log up on the mill and I had my knife out? I'm curious if anybody caught that. But I got the log up on the deck and rolled it around and tried to film that. And I realized, yeah, you can kind of see the bend to it, but not as well as if I put a piece of rope or string or something on there. And so that's why I did that with Tim. I ran that string across there, and I'll be honest with you, I was kind of surprised at how much bend there was in that log, even though I've milled, I don't even know how many logs anymore, undoubtedly thousands, right? I mean, I don't even know, lots. So I was actually surprised because I can see the hooks, but seeing that there was about a 3-inch difference from one end to the other actually surprised me. And I guess, I don't measure them ever. I just roll them around, get my hooks to the right, and away I go. And So that was a bit of a surprise. So I hope that made sense to anybody that was interested in that. And if you're not on now and you'll watch this later, maybe then you can answer that for me. But that was my goal, was just to try to show you two things. One, what I mean by hooks to the right whenever you hear me say hooks to the right, and two, to talk a bit about the reaction of the wood when you mill it. And that I think that log was a good one for that, because it did something I did expect some of what it did. But the one thing that I actually hadn't anticipated, which made perfect sense to me afterwards, was how on the near end it crowned, but it also twisted like this a little bit. And I think so if you look at that end, you'll see that it lifted on one side, but not so much on the other. It kind of twisted like that, and then it moved out like that. Well, that's because that log was pretty twisted, right? But that's, as long as you can anticipate that, cut those ends off, you may still get some of that, but maybe not as bad. But it actually crowned when it should not have. But that was because that end piece really did twist quite a bit. And when you look at that, there's one part where you're looking at that log and you can actually see it kind of goes up on one end, down on the other, and then it also twisted the other way. So it was pretty crazy. Two brothers, you don't look cold. Yes, we can hear you. Well, I'm not cold here, buddy. It's like 71 right here. I'm perfectly fine. That minus 30 is up north of me, and it's warmer now. It's only supposed to get to -4 tonight. So, and no, I'm not milling, and I don't even think I would mill in -4. Like I've been asked a lot of times, what's the coldest you've milled in? Well, I don't actually know. I know that there's a few pictures I posted on Facebook for Two Brothers Outdoors, because I posted a comment and a question in my community page on YouTube, and you can't go back and add pictures more than you already have, and you can't add pictures in the comments. So I decided I'll just do it on Facebook. And that job was in 2016 when the mill was new. I was up about 4,500 feet. It was the first week of December, and it was the job that convinced me that I should not be milling in December. And so that job, I went to that job, and the weather was beautiful. The weather was cool. I mean, it would be freezing in the morning, but no big deal. Maybe even in the 20s. But there had been a dusting of snow before I got there, but it was all melted off at that point. And I milled like 2 or 3 days in one location, and then the customer paid me to move to a second location because they didn't want to move their log decks. They'd already sent the heavy equipment away, and so you got to pay me my hourly rate for 1 hour to move my mill. That's my charge, right? If I'm going to move my mill and I'm charging $100 an hour, then it's $100 for me to move my mill. Just the way it is. So I moved the mill, and on the 4th and 5th days, it plummeted. And so during my morning coffee break, because I take a break every 2 hours, it was like 10 degrees. And it was so bad that the freezing fog, I had been using my umbrella stand, and the freezing fog was starting to break my umbrella because it was building up ice on top of the umbrella and getting heavier and heavier and heavier. So I just had to get rid of the umbrella. And then at one point, the umbrella was, because it catches a lot of, catches some of that exhaust, and it kind of warms up a little bit. So it was melting some of that ice. And the stand wasn't well positioned in those days. It was still kind of in the beginning when I was trying to figure out how I would do the umbrella, and it was dripping right down the back of my neck when I was running the mill. So I was like, okay, this ain't gonna work when you're out there milling. But on that job, I will tell you about the cabin edition. Absolutely, Andy. Thanks for asking. Southern Adirondack Outdoors. Nice to see you, buddy, or buddies. But so when I pulled off that job, it started to snow, and I'm talking blizzard, right? So you're 4,500 feet up in the mountains in the Okanagan, and it starts coming down. And I had chains for the truck, but I didn't have chains for the sawmill. And I chained up all fours on the truck because I was really concerned about what the sawmill was going to do coming out of there. And it's a pretty twisty, windy road through the mountains, right? So I get out onto the main road away from their driveway, which was probably about a mile long or something. And the main dirt roads are crowned pretty well for water runoff. And as I'm driving along, every once in a while, the mill would start sliding right towards the ditch. So I would either have to punch it or back off, or punch it and back off. And I just literally had to work my truck and sawmill down out of the mountain. But I got off to the end of the dirt section to the highway. Well, the highway was covered in snow and ice. So I had to take my chains off because they were ice chains. So can't run those on pavement. Took my chains off. And then I was literally just in a panic for like the next 5 miles coming out of the mountains because I was afraid I was going to lose the mill. And I swore I wasn't going to do it again. And then about 3 or 4 years later, I got caught in another snowstorm at 4,500 feet, this time in November. And almost the same scenario. Only difference is I did not have chains. I was in my brand new F350 dually. And in a way, maybe thank God, because the truck is so heavy at 9,000 pounds that when we were coming down a super steep, like 10% grade out of the mountains on pavement in like 5 inches of snow on the road, I was able to put it in just low and crawl down that hill, and the mill just stayed right behind the truck. So very fortunate. And I said, okay, that really is it. I'm not doing that again. Somebody asked me to come milling, anywhere in the mountains in November, December, January, February. The answer is no, period. Done. Not going to do it. I'm not risking a mill that would cost me, what's an LT40 hydraulic today? 40 grand, right? I'm not going to risk that to go do a job, even if it's a week-long job and I'm going to make 10 grand. I'm still not going to do it. I'm not going to risk losing the mill. The job can wait, right? We can do it in the spring. All right. Hey, Mike, there you are. Yeah, I don't think he looks cold either. Clickbait. You guys missed the Eric wouldn't do that, would he, Mike? Clickbait you? No, I wouldn't clickbait you. What the thing is, you guys were late. So you missed the whole minus 30 degrees trying to move 80-pound LiFePo batteries so that they don't explode in my board. Trust me, you guys got to realize I've got these LiFePos, right? They're like $1,200 a battery. And so how we move them, because they're heavy, right? They're 80 pounds. We disconnected everything. And trust me, we move fast, right? Well, as fast as this broken old jarhead could move. And my buddy Tim, he's a paratrooper. So, he's in better shape than I am. And he's like 10 years older than I am. But we got those batteries out on the porch. And as soon as we got them outside, the temperature was plummeting, like seriously plummeting. And I realized I cannot leave them. And I know the temperature of things don't go down that fast, right? You don't take something that's 40 degrees and figure it's going to hit zero in 20 minutes. But knowing how fragile LiFePo batteries are when they get cold, I didn't want them out there that long. So I had put a pallet on the tractor and run the tractor into the porch at the cabin and set that on the deck. And then we put some boards on top of that. We put insulation on that, and we laid all those batteries on there, put insulation on top of those, tied them all up with some ratchet straps to make sure they didn't fall off, right? So I'm going to lift these batteries, 3 feet or whatever off the deck in my tractor in the snow and ice and hope that and the pallet was sliding back and forth on the forks when I brought it in, right? So I tied a zap strap going the other way to try and keep things from falling off, right? So you got to picture this. It's kind of like a monkey screwing a football, if you'll excuse the expression. But I'm trying desperately to not freeze my batteries, but maybe even more so, not drop them, because they could literally slide off if you're not careful, right? You don't want to drop a LiFePo battery in 0-degree temperature, but you don't want to drop one, period. Not when they're $1,200 a piece. Just not a good idea. And then I was thinking I'd have to slide them into the back room of the cabin. That was really worrying me. But in the end, Tim and I managed to, literally both of us standing in the same doorway, I would reach in and pull a battery out and get best grip I could on it. And then he would reach and grab that battery. And then we would both kind of bring it in and lay it in there. But the whole time I'm going, please don't drop the batteries. Anyway. All right. Cabin edition. So first real question. Thank you all very much. I'm not clickbaiting. Andy, so the cabin edition, I'll be honest with you. I've been wanting to do a log cabin for a very long time. And I didn't. And so I don't know if you guys know this, but the reason I run a sawmill is because of the cabin. So I think I've said that once or twice, maybe in my videos, but I started with a little LT10 that I put in the snow, started milling in the snow outside at the cabin in February of 2011. And That was after, the year earlier trying to use a chainsaw mill, which wasn't going to do pine paneling for me very quickly, right? So I got that LT10 and I started with that. And when I built this cabin, my plan was either to do maybe an addition in one way or another on it, or really I wanted to build a couple other cabins, guest cabins sort of things. But, I started 15 years ago, and so I was 15 years younger. And today I realize I'm not going to be able to climb that ship's ladder to get into the loft as easily in the future. And it's getting more difficult. So I need to build an addition, but I wanted to do a log cabin edition. So I finally worked out how I could do it. And there's still a little bit of engineering behind it. Nothing complicated, right? But I decided I was going to do a D-log cabin because I love that kind of style of log cabin. I don't know what it is about D-logs with the button pass method. So that's what I'll be doing. It'll be a button pass D-log, 6-inch D-log edition. And it'll be a 12 by 18 bedroom with an 8 by 10 dining room section. So L-shaped around the kind of the right side of the cabin if you're looking at it. So where the porch is will extend from the edge of the porch where it is now. It'll extend another 20 feet to the right and then go back 12 feet. And so that 12 by 18 log cabin edition will sit right there. That'll be the new master bedroom. And I'm actually planning on putting that on a cinder block foundation. In fact, the whole cabin is going to be put on a partial cinder block foundation, which I'd already started. There's actually a section already done under the porch. You just can't see it typically because of the deck is in the way of the porch. But we may actually get Mr. Kevin Bales from Kevin Bales Enterprises to come up and run the excavator for me because he does that too. And so we've been working and talking about how we can make that happen. So I think Kevin's going to come up and do that for me. And it's going to be tricky because we're going to have to try to use the excavator to dig out from under the cabin around the main cabin, because that's going to get a new 8 by 16 foundation and then a couple rows of cinder blocks with service bonded cement. So if you've never seen that, it's actually stronger than standard mortar build. And then the addition will be, I'm going to try to do the entire addition foundation as concrete, cinder block, surface bonded cement, all the way up to where the floor joists go. I just haven't worked out whether I'm going to do floor joists inside the D-logs. I think I am. Or if I'm going to build the floor and throw the D-logs on top. I've gone back and forth on both of those, but I will mill. It'll all be done with stuff that I mill. I do think I'm going to, do the 2x6 floor again. I know it's not code. I don't really care. Sorry. I find 2x6 is perfectly fine. The only reason they call for a 2x10 or 2x12 joists typically is for insulation. That's it. Well, I've lost a quarter of the insulation under my cabin due to rats, and that'll be another thing I'm working on fixing. But I don't have a problem with keeping my cabin warm at all with a small wood stove. That wood stove is only an 18,000 BTU wood stove, and that would be if I was running like oak through it. And I'm running pine and Doug fir, which does not have the same BTU rating per cord. If you know anything about wood stoves, they're rated. It's kind of like your sawmill, right? So your sawmill, like mine, is rated at 550 board feet an hour, right? And this is a video coming out on Thursday, but you get the preview today. So the mill's rated at 550 board feet an hour, but that doesn't mean that my 30-year-old son who hasn't run this kind of sawmill in almost 10 years or maybe 10 years could jump on that and throw a log on and do 550 board feet an hour all day long. That's not how it works. Well, wood stoves are exactly the same, right? They're going to rate the wood stove with like optimum fuel. Like if I put oak in it, I can get 18,000 BTUs out of it. So running pine and fir, I'm probably getting like 12,000. And it actually is more than enough to keep the cabin warm. So I decided I would probably go with a 2x6 floor. It'll be 6-inch D-logs. And if you know anything about R factors, that means an R6 wall. So you're not talking super insulated here. But I'm confident that'll be perfectly fine. And I've actually seen cabins out there that are 100 years old or more that were done with 6-inch D-logs. So it's pretty common. Let's see. Weather has us pinned indoors. You're bored. Well, I did try to watch your live earlier twice, actually, but I guess you guys were having some technical batteries. To a $1,200 battery should have wheels on them. Yes, they do have wheels on them, Tim. As a matter of fact, was that Tim or Rick? Actually, I see T and Two Brothers, and my brain just starts, T, Tim. But they do. The problem is, well, twofold. One, the deck is at the spot we use to offload them. It's about 3 feet off the ground, so the wheels aren't going to help you at that 3 feet. Then, when you get down off the deck, you're in the snow and ice, and I'm not wheeling $1,200 LifeBoat batteries through the snow and ice. So, and you got to go all the way around the back of the cabin. And even though I plowed a lot of that, the shortest distance is through 6 inches of snow at that time. So you will get to see it here in a couple of weeks, probably. But so yeah, they do have wheels. They're actually really nice batteries. I really like them. I got them from the Big Battery Store. No, I do not have affiliate with them. I don't want one with them. And honestly, their tech support is, I think it's good for technical stuff, but when you ask them about freezing batteries, they kind of run and hide, right? I mean, I was getting the typical, well, if you look at the brochure and it tells you what, you shouldn't go outside of those parameters. Except for one of the parameters was totally wrong and said -22 discharge. Wow, they're telling me don't let them get that cold. Shouldn't store them under 23 degrees. I'm going -22. That's a big difference between 23 degrees Fahrenheit and -22 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So, all right, let me see what we got here. Latest video is borderline clickbait. He may be learning it from me. Is that the fire video? I haven't watched that one yet, but I keep seeing it pop up, and I go, one of these days I'm going to watch that. Let's watch Mike set himself on fire. You can come burn for me anytime you want, buddy. Man, no, you can't. Not if you're going to set yourself on fire. Weather has, let's see, what else? We all may be a little guilty of a little exaggeration in titles and thumbnails. I will tell you, honestly, I don't like to exaggerate in my titles and thumbnails. I like to try and create a title and thumbnail that is interesting, right? Catchy. I think we all do that. But I want it to be honest. And here's a little YouTube insider information for you. If you didn't know this, you should try to make your thumbnail from an image within the first 30 seconds of the video if possible. And your caption should match something you say within the first 30 seconds of the video if possible. That's very difficult to do when you don't plan it. So I have to tell you guys, if you watch my channel, if you haven't figured it out yet, I do not plan my videos. I don't go, well, most of my sawmill videos were on the job milling for somebody else. There's no video planning involved there at all. That's, those videos, all those voiceovers. Well, that's why, because I didn't, when you're working for somebody, they're paying you $100 an hour to run your sawmill. You ain't there to run your cameras. If they know you have a YouTube channel, I never had anybody have an issue with me filming what I was doing, as long as when I was messing with cameras, it was on my own time. And that just happened to work for me because every 2 hours I took a break, and the batteries would last me 2 hours if I'm filming in 1080p. So I could set them on 1080p, go for 2 hours, and 90% of the time the battery wouldn't die at the end of that 2 hours. Sometimes if it was hot, cold, or if I went a little long, they might die and I'd lose some video footage. But generally that's what I was doing. So most of my content is literally just out on the job, right? Now, today, that's not the case. Today, it's me doing what I'm doing. And so I don't script anything. I know, like, that's a cardinal sin, right? The big guys out there that tell you how to run a YouTube channel say you got to script it. Well, I don't. I generally don't even have an idea of what I'm going to film when I'm filming it, because what I do is I just film what I'm doing. Now, I just told you a little bit earlier that I chose the log for my last video because of questions I had been asked, and that's as close as you're going to see on my channel from me scripting or planning anything, right? There ain't no planning, guys. Trust me. I do a lot. So and the hardest thing, actually, I'll be honest with you, I'm what I like to call a doer. I just want to go do stuff, and filming that is often very, very hard. I find myself, and maybe you guys have the same problem, those of you that do this, I find myself forgetting to set cameras up. right? Because I'm just trying to get stuff done. And then I realized, hey, you dumb jarhead, what are you doing? Set a camera up. So I literally, during this whole fiasco of, minus 30, trying to get my batteries moved before they blow up in my ports, because, thank God I wasn't driving a battery powered Jeep. Never mind. But, I'm literally like, damn, I'm not filming. So I was like, here, Tim, grab my camera. Get a little video right here real quick, because I'm just trying to get the batteries moved. And I often think about that with some of the bigger channels that you watch, and it's a great production, but folks, it's a production. A lot of them really, truly are productions. So I know that Two Brothers Outdoors, John Davidson's All Natural Gym, Wilson Forest Lands, Southern Adirondack Outdoors. I know you guys are just like me. You're just out there getting stuff done and you're trying to film it. And it's tough, isn't it? Right? I mean, how many of you, I don't know. I know most of you guys only use like one or two cameras. I'll tell you, when I use 5 or 6, oh man, I just pile the workload on. So I will tell you guys, if you like those videos where you see a lot of different camera angles and changes, a 12-minute video with 5 or 6 cameras can take me no less than 12 hours to put together, often double that. So what else we got? Do we got any questions? Hey, Kenneth Nelson, nice to see you. D-logs are 8 inches wide, 6 inches thick, more stable than a square D-log. My cabin has been up since 1998. Yeah, and 8 inches would give you R8 insulation factor. So definitely better. I've seen a lot of 6-inch D-log cabins, which is, I went back and forth. I was going to do 8. That was actually my plan originally, was to do 8s. And then I started milling them, and I realized that 6-inch D-logs would be easier for me to handle, frankly. And I thought, you know what? I've got cabins around here in northern Washington that were done with 6-inch D-logs. The heck with it. I'm going to do it with 6-inch D-logs, and they're a lot easier for me to move. You wouldn't think so. You would think that 2 inches doesn't make that much of a difference. But if you've got an 18-inch log that's 8 by 8 versus one that's 6 by 6, it makes a big difference. So, all right, what kind of questions you guys got? I'm hoping there's some questions out there. I can blabber on about all kinds of crazy things. I was just telling somebody on Facebook, she was talking about a bloodhound, and I said, we had a bloodhound once named Rainmaker's Puddle Jumper. That's kind of a crazy name for a bloodhound, but there's a story behind it. And just about everything I do, there's a story behind. So, Yes, doing things and doing a video is hard. I'm often forgetting to turn cameras on or plug in microphones. I've had so here's my main camera right here. Oh, that's really blurry. Look at that. There we go. GoPro 11. I have the media mod for that. And I also now have a DJI mic for it. I have often had the DJI mic half unplugged and spend 10 minutes explaining something and the mic's half unplugged. I've had the mic battery die and I'm like filming away and realizing afterwards, oh my God, I didn't have any sound. And one thing I always try to tell everybody is when you're trying to film milling a log up, there's a couple things that happen, right? So, and you guys with channels like mine, tell me if you don't do this. So you're going to do something that you do over and over and over. You've done it like 1,000 times, right? You're not even going to think about it. Then you go to try and do it on film. And because you're thinking about your cameras and your mics and where the cameras are and are people going to be able to see what I'm doing and all this other stuff, you end up doing a terrible job of what you were actually trying to do in the first place because you spent too much time. And what I usually do is I end up forgetting some step along the way, or I do something, mess up something. I get something in my head like, oh, I should take a half an inch out here, but I really shouldn't have, because I'm too busy trying to make sure that the cameras are all in the right place and things are being caught. It can be a challenge, folks. All right, let's see. Andy Smith. That reminds me, we had a fresh battery shut down the GoPro 2 times, claiming it was low. Yes, I can explain that. I kept turning the camera back on, trying to warm the battery up by the draw of the battery, and it worked. Oh, okay. Third time it fired up and ran no problem. May help you at the cabin. Oh, yeah, and I've learned some other things. So in a not recent video, I can't remember which one, but a few videos back, I mentioned that my GoPro 11 absolutely quit, and it kept getting a low battery or low power or whatever, and it wouldn't fire up. What I found is that you have to unplug it, pull the battery out, pull the SIM card, or the memory card, pull the memory card out, leave it out for a little bit, and then put everything back together. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, pull everything back out and plug it into power, I think is what they said. But you got to try like plug it into power without battery, all those things, but no SIM card or memory card. Then you put the memory card back in, it should work, or SD card. So I've since learned that and honestly, I don't know about the 12. So John's got a 12. I don't have a 12. I've got a 9, 10, and an 11, and an 11 mini. And I have found that the 11 is way more problematic than a 10. So if somebody were to come to me and say, which one should I buy? I'd say 10, 9 or a 10. 10 is actually better, in my opinion, than a 9. I'd say get a 9 or a 10. I have not had any problems with my 10. The only time my 10's ever shut down is if it got hot. And if you had a choice to buy a white or black, I'd get white because it probably wouldn't run as hot. But honestly, the 10, the 9, they seem to work fine. The 11 mini, I don't recommend buying them only because they only run for 2 hours. Then you got to recharge them. You can't replace the battery. So for what we do, it's not the greatest. It's okay. And that's usually the one when you see the throat shot of the band coming out of the log. That's usually my 11 mini. Just because it's an easier location for me to pull it off and I won't say discard it, but throw it in the bin to get recharged. And even with a Jackery, I mean, it's going to take a while to recharge it. So if I'm milling like for 8 hours during the day, I can catch the first 2 hours and maybe I can catch the last 2 hours, but the middle 4 hours of the day, I'm not going to get it on that camera. So, so if you really watch my videos, you may notice that sometimes there's more angles than others. That's just because that battery died and I had to recharge that one up, or, my 11 was being funky and didn't want to run right. But I also use a cell phone. They take great video. And my wife's Canon, it's like an SLR style digital camera. And usually I don't typically run that one by myself, though I did sometimes with Kevin when I wasn't walking too well. I was back in the summer when we did the Sycamore. I was running that camera for him. And then otherwise it's Darcy running it, right? So what else you got here? Yeah, that's when I do things like hit log stops and play. Forget to take the toe boards out. Oh yeah, it's actually, I laugh because it's kind of funny, right? You just mess up, and it makes it a challenge. And I actually enjoy a challenge, but sawmilling for me, my happy place is log after log after log after log. Just get the logs on the mill for me. And so I mentioned earlier I'd give you a preview to a video coming up. So I see this question all the time. Can you really mill X board feet on this mill or that mill? And the answer is yes. 100%, no doubt, no question, absolutely, period. Yes, you can. Drop the mic, walk away. Anybody that says you can't probably isn't thinking about it the right way. So I'll explain. Now you won't have to watch the video, right? The manufacturer's not rating you. They're not rating you. They're not saying you can do 550 board feet an hour on an LT40 hydraulic standard with a 26.5 horse motor. They're saying the mill can. And I can tell you right now, I can't do it alone. You're not going to do it alone. But the mill's rated at that speed. It doesn't say that the mill can do 550 board feet an hour with one operator and no off bearers and no heavy equipment. And the truth is you could do it with 2-bys. And I have. I've done it all day long. I calculated out the other day when I was working on the video, I calculated out that I ran 571 board feet an hour for an entire 7 hours straight on that mill back in 2017 or 2018. I want to say it was 2017. I recorded all my jobs. So I could take the ending board feet total of the day, calculate by the amount of hours that I charged for milling, not including setup, right? So if I milled for 7 hours and I milled, whatever it was, 4,200 board feet or whatever, then all you got to do is divide that by 7. There's your number. And that day it was 571 and change. on a mill that's rated at 550 board feet an hour. Well, how did I do that? Well, every log was between 400 and 600 board feet, number one. So you have to have logs that you can produce that on. Now, that doesn't mean they have to be that big, because I've actually done 280 board feet in 20 minutes, milling 2x6s on a log that was only 280 board feet. I could have easily milled over 560 board feet an hour with those logs milling that 2x6 dimension lumber. Sure, could do it. But to do it, you've got to have off bearers that are getting the lumber off the mill faster than you can mill the lumber. And I always say faster because they've got to be able to get that off out of the way, and you never slow down. If you can never slow down running your mill so that you're literally in the wood, out of the wood, in the wood, out of the wood, roll the log, in the wood, out of the wood, like that, then that's number one. Your off bears have to be moving. And when I milled 571 board feet an hour, there were 6 off bearers. They typically ran 2 at a time. So 2 guys would run for an hour and switch out for 2 more guys that would run for an hour. And then 2 more guys. Did the mill run 550 board feet an hour? Yeah, I ran 571. But I ran the mill. And when I did band changes, and yes, I'm counting band changes in there. So, right, we're talking real world scenario. When I did a band change, I would shut the mill down. And as soon as they saw that I went to start to unwind the pressure on the band tension, they would jump into action. And all I would have to do, back off the tension, pull the cover plate, the covers off, pull the band off and walk away. And they would clean out everything for me. They had a high pressure nozzle on an air hose there, blowing all the sawdust off. They were getting the sawdust off the deck of the mill. They'd already gotten all the lumber off because they're faster than I was. And by the time I brought a fresh band back, it was ready for me to put the band on. I was doing band changes in under 10 minutes, no problem. So it was bing, bang, boom. Band comes off, band goes on, right back to milling again, right? The other thing was he had a skidder with, and I want to say it had a claw, a grapple. And he would go grab these logs. Every one of those logs was 24 inches at one end or the other and 18 and a half feet long. And they were all bought from a plywood mill that couldn't mill 24 inches and above. So anything 24 inches and above, they sold that off to somebody else. And he bought like 150 logs for $1,500. It was ridiculous. So he had a heavy piece of equipment that he would set the logs right on my forks. They wouldn't even be on the ground all the way. He would bring it in and just gently set the log right on the forks, and up the log would go. And they had figured out that if I didn't shut the band down, then you didn't get in my way, right? So if I want to, I call it rocking and rolling, right? When I get going, I'm going to go, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cuts, depending on what I'm milling. And then I might stop and readjust, because I always leave my side supports up a little bit when I've got a taller cant, because I've actually had a cant twist on me when I didn't do that. So I will leave them up. If I've got a 18-inch cant, then my side supports are going to be up like 4 or 5 inches, just the way it is, right? And so these guys would pay attention to that, so that whenever it got to the point where I shut the band down, they knew right then and there, get everything off the deck as soon as I was out of the way. And they had a forklift sitting right there on the other side of the mill. So you got to picture this: forklift to my left, skidder on my right, 150 logs. Every one of them was over 400 board feet. And a 6-man crew off bearing, carrying slabs away, cleaning everything, refueling the mill, getting my water filled up, right? You name it, was all being done. So can the mill do 550 board feet an hour? 100%. Absolutely. Yes, you betcha. All day long. Can you is the real question. Can I do it alone? No. When I'm milling alone, I might be milling at 150 board feet an hour, right? Because you're milling alone. One, you're not production sawing, right? Production milling is not the same as just putting a log up and knocking it down. Production milling is a little different. You want to mill at your rate that your mills run. Not only do you have to have the good crew, but you got to stop moving, right? Cut, roll, cut, roll, cut, roll, knock it to the deck over and over and over all day long. All right, where are we at here? We got here you find in Southeast Texas. Hey Doc, nice to see you, buddy. And what kind of mills do you guys got? And who's running their mills in temperatures below 10 degrees Fahrenheit? I'm kind of curious. I think Two Brothers was running theirs in some pretty cold temperatures. The orders come in, right? Yeah, it gets a point where I'm like, I'm not so sure. So I want to know if anybody watched the outhouse video and was amused by it. I'll be honest with you, I was very amused by it. I don't know what it is about. It's dumb, right? It's a stupid outhouse. But this outhouse is like the Taj Mahal of outhouses. And it was going to be. And that's why it's a 6x6 structure. I was going to put a stove in there. Now, understand that when we were at the cabin this last trip, when the batteries were, at risk, it's so cold that I won't use my composting toilet. Now, composting toilet's great, right? They work awesome. I've had mine since 2010. So maybe even 09, but I probably bought it in 09, installed it in 2010. And they're great. They're awesome. However, the sewage pipe goes under the cabin. And even though it's wrapped in insulation, if you know anything about radiation and how, heat and cold impact each other, you know that if it's minus 30 out or minus 10 out or whatever, that pipe's going to be cold and things can flash freeze. And trust me, you do not want a poopsicle in your sewage pipe. Been there, done that. It's not a whole lot of fun for anybody in the cabin. Trust me. It's just, I think when we first put that thing in, probably the next winter, we had gone there and my son was like, oh my God, who, whatever themselves. And everybody thought that somebody had eaten something really bad and they were dying inside. No, that wasn't what it was. Somebody hadn't made sure that things went all the way down. Great subject, right? And they had frozen. Oh yeah, not pretty. So we're at the cabin and you got to do your thing every day, right? So what do I got to do? It's minus 20 out because it had warmed up. And I had to use the Taj McChili is what I started calling it then. That's when you're worried about things are going to freeze to things, right? You're like, I need to put a heater in here, but I got to finish the outhouse before I can put a heater in it. I might need some insulation and a pop can solar heater, so when it's minus 20 out, the shock factor is not quite that bad. See what happens when you guys don't ask me questions about sawmilling or YouTube? I start talking about outhouses and poopsicles. All right, where are we at? Did I answer enough of your questions on the cabin edition, Andy? And I will tell you that the plan is to do that edition, and the roof will match the deck. So it'll go all the way. That deck will eventually extend all the way around behind the cabin as well. And so the deck will match, the deck roof will go right over the addition and continue on. So it'll be the same profile all the way around. And then I intend to build a second cabin. That will be a D-log structure, also 6x. So the structure that you see by the sawmill is not actually the cabin. That was a kind of a twofold idea. One was that you've got to stack the logs to dry. It's just something you got to do. And my dad actually came to me and he said, well, son, why don't you stack them up like you're going to put them together and dry them that way so people can actually see the progress as you're making them. So we thought, why not? It'd be fun. But I will tell you that it occurred to me that I probably won't continue to stack too many courses higher, only because it's not, they're on stickers. They're not always even. It's not, they could fall over. And I don't really want to have, a 6 foot tall or 7 foot tall wall of D-logs suddenly decide to let go and I'm in the middle of, milling more of them up. So I will probably build a drying structure somewhere nearby that I can set more logs on to dry like I used to. Essentially, I stack and sticker my D-logs normally. So this was kind of an experiment to kind of show you what it would sort of look like in the end. Andy, I switched to SAO. Yes, I was wondering what space you were adding. Looking forward to seeing these things. So, Andy, SAO. Oh, there's Steve from MSD. Nice to see you, buddy. You did catch me live. You got to be kind of up late, like Two Brothers and Southern Adirondack out there. But yeah, let's see. I don't think any other channels from that side of the country are on. Mike's over here, in my neck of the woods. Mike and I we're born in the same hospital, but I think I might have been born a little bit earlier than Mike. I think Mike's a little young, guys. I don't know. I don't think he's not even 50 yet, probably, or he's just out there falling trees and and running away from bears that are running away from hornets or something like that. You have any advice on these guys recording in black and white? I will tell you that if you're going to do it in black and white, then I would say you really need to work on lighting and filters. I did do some photography 40 years ago, and black and white was really fun to work with. I've never filmed in black and white, and I actually wouldn't. I would probably film in color and change it to black and white if I wanted to do that. The only time I would do black and white is maybe if I wanted to just experiment a little bit, and it's always good to do that. But I don't think I would film in black and white, unless I was doing like wanted to do like an old timey kind of login video or something, like maybe Mike Wilson out falling trees. And, if he wanted to look like he's back in the 40s or something, doing it in black and white could be a really cool effect to do. But we just hit oh, wow. 1,000. Did you really? Hey, everybody. Congratulations to Southern Adirondack Outdoors for hitting the big 1K. Congrats, guys. That's awesome. Awesome. Super awesome. That's a special moment. Did you know that only 8.5% or approximately 8.5% of the 1 billion YouTube channels ever actually get to 1,000 subscribers? So kudos to you. That's a rare group that do that. And then to get monetized. Although I know now you can monetize at 500 with 3,000 hours, but I read something the other day that you still don't get ad revenue until 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. So I don't know if that's still true. But yes, big congrats. Well, tell them to take some of the white out of their... Oh, you're being funny. You're talking about snow. Guys, I'm a literal person, right? If you want to pull a fast one on me, it's really easy to do, because if you ask me something like that, I won't even see the joke. I won't. This is who I am. I am a literal person. It drives people nuts all the time, because they'll make a joke or something, but they'll be kind of deadpan about it, and so I won't even get that it's a joke. I'll just keep going. So anyway, and really congrats to Mike Wilson. His channel has blown up lately, so kudos to you, Mike. I know you're working really hard out there on your channel, and it is doing awesome. So tough to keep up too, I know, right? So good job. But yeah, you got me there, Steve. So Steve from MSD Making Stardust. Guys, I got to tell you something. Steve is the reason that I edit my videos the way I do today. So I don't even know if Steve remembers this, but I was trying to figure out what kind of software to use, and it was Steve that turned me on to DaVinci Resolve. And it actually took me probably a couple, 2 or 3 months before I finally really started figuring it out and was willing to use it. And once I started using DaVinci Resolve, I would never go back to anything else. And I have learned so much. And there's 10 times more for me to still learn. It is the best, bar none, software that you can get for free. It's actually one of the top 2 best you can get if you pay for them, but you can get it free too. And you just don't get all the same features, but it is absolutely fantastic. And it was thanks to Steve over at MSD Making Sawdust that turned me on to DaVinci Resolve. And I'm on like 18.6 now, I think. I don't even remember back in the day. So that was all Steve's doing. But yeah, sounds cool. Can we change it to black and white with DaVinci Resolve? I do believe that you can. So the funny thing is Steve was just joking, and of course I ran with it. But I'm sure, actually I know that you can. So all you have to do is go to the color settings, and you just play with those, and you could make it chrome color. You could do all kinds of things. I do some color grading. It's rare that I do it because it just takes so much work. But if I do color grading, it's usually like on the Kevin Bales videos where we were in the backyard doing the Black Forest oak. There was a lot of shade, and so the cameras just, it was dark. And so what I did is I did a lot of color grading to lighten those up, and you can do that easily in DaVinci Resolve. Probably best to do it with your video streams before you chop them all up. So if you've seen my pictures that I post sometimes about rendering a video, and you see like almost like pictures are all the way across the screen, 2 or 3 or 4 high or whatever, those are video streams that I've chopped up. And so the way I edit my videos, for those interested, is I stack them one stream on top of another. So I'll have my first stream, typically my GoPro 11 stream, and I'll put 12 minutes up of that. And then maybe my next stream is my GoPro 10, and I'll put 12 minutes right on top, and I'll line those up so that they are matched time-wise. Then I'll put my 9, then my 11 mini, and so all 4 of those, I'll stack one right on top of the other. Well, if you do that and you try to watch it in DaVinci Resolve, you're only going to see the top one. But what you do then is you take your razor blade for cutting, and you just go through it and cut out everything except what you want to show. And then you delete everything else. And then you'll see the next layer. And then you cut those and you'll see the next layer. And you cut those and you see the next layer. And then if you're going to blend from, for example, nobody wants to sit and watch a sawmill go for 30 minutes in one direction and then, back up and go for 30 minutes in another direction. And if you do, put a comment in the chat right now. Tell me you want to see a sawmill run real time from one angle, no changes, because I might put a video. If you're a member, I'll put that video out for you, but only for members, because I'll be honest with you, it won't get play on YouTube. And so, if you're going to put time into it, you might as well do it for members only. But speaking of membership, and I'm not trying to chase everybody away, but if you wonder what those are about, you've probably seen Patreons before. YouTube membership is the same thing. It's like, for a cup of coffee a month, you could support a channel. I know John Davidson does it now. I've done it. And you'll notice that John has a star over there by his name. He's a member on my channel. I'm also a member on his. But it allows you to see things that you might not otherwise see. So, for example, I do make posts for members that are in my community page. All my videos go out for members first. So I have a video that's out for Tuesday. That's already been out. John's probably already watched it, or he might not have. He tends to watch the sawmill ones and not the cabin ones as much, and that's cool. But I try to put all those videos out as soon as I can. Now, I'll be honest, 3 videos a week. Sometimes that video goes out, as John's pointed out, 7 hours ahead of time. Usually I try to get them out 2 or 3 days in advance if I can, though Tuesday's video almost never goes out in advance because it has this time, but because I try to take Saturday and Sunday off. So plus a lot of times I'm filming on Saturday and Sunday. So typically what I do, if you're kind of curious, is I leave on Friday to go either milling or cabining or whatever I'm going to do. And I come home on Sunday. And then on Monday, I edit all day from 4:30 in the morning until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then I try to get everything done. And if I'm going to do any thumbnail work and all that kind of stuff, I try to get all that done in that period of time. So you're talking, between 8 and 10 or 11 hours. And then I put the video out. Sometimes I catch something and I make a change and I put it out again, but I'll often leave that original one up for members so they could see that. And a lot of times those are longer. So just kind of an FYI. Hey, Timothy, there you are, buddy. You could be a YouTube millionaire if you would get you some yoga pants and a blonde wig. I got blonde hair. Well, it used to be blonde. From watching your videos, you do a great job editing. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. You like Resolve better. Resolve is a whole different class than Shortcut. You have to watch out for Steve. He's always cracking me up in my comments. Yeah, he's one of those. So Tim, I made a promise that I would not wear yoga pants. I think it was with Tim at Two Brothers Outdoors. I think he and I made a deal that neither of us would wear yoga pants on YouTube because we really didn't want to make you guys, carve your eyeballs out, because then you could never watch our videos again. So I don't want you guys losing your eyeballs, right? It can be really, really bad. Now, my wife had a friend at work who offered to wear a Borat suit, and his business was the Angry Gnome, and he looks like an old angry gnome. I don't know if you could handle that. And then his brother-in-law, who's pretty good sized guy, he was talking about wearing Daisy Dukes, and they were going to try to photobomb one of my videos in a Daisy Dukes and a Borat suit, and I'm going, no. No. But I guess if I got, all right, I'll tell you what, if I get 10,000 people to put a comment in this live that they want to see me run my sawmill in yoga pants, then I might consider it. It probably still wouldn't, though. But I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. For anybody that wants to do YouTube videos in sawmills, forget those channels, because you're not competing with them. They're not running sawmills. They're filming girls in yoga pants from behind a whole lot. And it sells. I mean, there's a channel out there, I'm not going to name names, that I often think of. And they did a video talking about how you couldn't run a sawmill in gloves. And I'm going, okay, you've been running a sawmill for like a year or two, maybe 3. I've been running one for like, this is my 13th year running a sawmill. So 13 years. Actually, now it's 13 years. So 13 years. I think I ran it in the beginning without gloves, and then I cut my hand on a band, and then I decided to wear gloves. I've been doing it ever since. And in my last videos, if you look at those gloves, those are insulated gloves. So I'm running a LT40 high production sawmill, changing bands, running the hydraulics, running simple set, doing all that with gloves on, and I don't take them off when I'm running my mill. But their videos get like 100,000 views, and mine get, 1,000. I says it like I sees it. I will be one to comment. I want to see it go yoga. Yeah, not. That's platinum blonde. Wait, I better platinum blonde. Yeah, that's platinum blonde. That's right. This is platinum blonde. That's right. Yeah, it used to be dirty blonde, dishwater blonde. I don't know. I really had blonde hair as a kid. You wouldn't, probably kind of closer today, but yeah, no yoga pants, John. I'm sorry. Now you were doing a Sawyer's calendar. You were going to get a bunch of guys. I wasn't going to put yoga pants on for your calendar, though. I mean, yes, folks. I think it was John. Come on, John. I think it was you that was trying to get all of us to do yoga pants or something like that to put in a calendar that you were going to sell. I make millions. Yeah, Chunkendales, right? Only instead of Chunkendales, it's Chunk and Sawmills. Although, Southern Adirondack, those guys aren't like us, or you, John, he's not chunky, but, some of us are, beat up old broken guys that have packed on an extra 50 pounds to stay warm in the -30 weather. All right. Do we have any questions? There haven't been a lot of questions tonight. So more like albino blonde. Thanks, Timothy. How's your sawmill going, by the way? Yeah, it was, John. I thought so. Any questions about sawmilling? Anybody on here? There's 13 of you out there. If you've got a question, drop it in the comments. Ask me. I will answer it. I will tell you that if I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody that does. And I've done this before where, since I don't sell lumber, I couldn't really answer the question that was being asked. So I got guys like Mike Wilson and two brothers in Southern Adirondack and others together to try and answer those questions. I know John was one. Excuse me. So if I can't answer it, I will. Now, I will tell you about selling lumber. I actually think that a lot of people miss the point of whether it's trying to earn a living on a sawmill, whether it's selling lumber, in that they're always trying to see, well, what do other people do? And it's okay to try to ask what other people do to get a baseline sort of idea. But the truth is, if you're not doing what John Davidson, John Davis, I always call him Davidson because of his channel name. Dang it. So dang it. If you don't know who Dang It is, go to Davidson's All Natural Gym. But he did a video on charging for lumber, and I thought it was a great video. It was a great, honest look from a business owner's perspective on what you should charge for things. And I think a lot of people don't do that. You know, when I see someone say, well, how much would you charge for a 1x8x8 oak? And I'm thinking, do you know what it cost you to make that 1x8x8 oak? Because that has to be a consideration. And if you don't know what it costs you, well, you should probably figure that out, because ultimately businesses, you know, they come and they go, and they either succeed or fail on whether or not they're making a profit. That's it. There's no other mystery. There's no other secret code. It's, are you making a profit or not? And you could put forth a whole lot of effort without making a dime before you ever make a profit. But the end goal is always to make a profit. So whether it's how much do I charge per hour to run my sawmill, or how much do I charge per board foot to run my sawmill, or how much do I charge to sell a piece of lumber, it's all the same thing. The ultimate goal is to make a profit. But you have to actually know what it costs you to make that lumber in the first place. And I think John's video, and John, do me a favor. Can you grab that video link and put it in the chat? See if you can. Yeah, if you can't, and I think you can, but I'm not sure. If, especially as a member, I think you could. If not, get that one and send it to me, send it to me or post it in my comments, one of the others. And if you can't post it in comments, I'll make you a moderator. Maybe you can post it then. Because I think that's a really, really good video for folks that are asking that question, because John took the time to look at every single aspect of his business to get a log, turn it into lumber, and then sell it. I mean, you were doing the cost of electricity, I think, to run your lights, right? Like he really looked at all of those things. And I do believe that you have to do that. What did your mill cost? What does your maintenance cost? How much did your truck cost? What is the maintenance on your truck? Like, I see guys all the time, well, I only charge like $45 an hour. And I'm thinking, well, then you ain't going to do this for very long. Or you don't need to make money at it. One or the other. Like, if you don't need to make any money, it's just a little bit, a little pocket change, fine. But I know that for the longest time, the going rate for softwoods, for example, was 40 cents a board foot. Well, if you do the math, at 300 board feet an hour, that's like $120 an hour. So why are you charging 45 when I'm charging 125 an hour? I mean, but there's always other factors, right? Unless you're in an area that there's 700,000 sawmills and 40 customers. Well, then you're not going to be successful in your business unless you find somewhere where there are customers and not a lot of people doing it. Supply and demand always works that way. Your sawmill's waiting for the weather to break. Oh, 60. I'm 60 and hurting daily. Andy, I'm telling you, I get that right there. John is still doing the sexy sawyers of YouTube. Well, if you're looking for sexy sawyers, don't count me in, buddy. So Andy, you're just a tick older than I am. And as a beat up old jarhead, I can tell you I heard every day. In fact, my thumbs right now aren't working again. I got to find out when my next cortisone shots are so I can get my thumbs working. You sell a lot of lumber and every area is different and you can't compete with big box stores. Well, yes, every area is different. Yes, you can compete with big box stores. The problem with competing with big box stores is that you forget that you're not competing with them in selling S4S kiln dried, construction lumber or whatever. But show me the big box store that will drag their sawmill out to the customer's location, like I know you have, and mill up a whole bunch of logs that you couldn't even film because they didn't want to be on film, and do that all on their location to their specs in a custom manner as you were going. Big box stores can't do that, so they can't compete with you. So the key, I think, this is something I always tell everybody, is you're not competing with them. You're not even the same ballpark. They sell crap, mostly crap, and they do it to the masses. And the people they're selling their lumber to are generally not your customers, or if they are your customers, they don't know it yet. So your customers are people that can afford to have you come out and make a better product. Because I will tell you that portable sawyers typically make better lumber by and large than you can buy in the store. I mean, yes, there are those out there that don't do a great job of doing it, but for the most part, most guys that buy sawmills seem to start out with the intent to do something for themselves And so they want the lumber they make for themselves to be really high quality stuff, right? That's what you do. Like nobody makes a cut and rolls a log and makes a cut and then throws a square up unless they're doing it for themselves, typically, right? I mean, you're trying to make it as good as you could possibly do it. You're looking at where knots are going to be placed, right? You're looking at where the stress is in every log. You ever seen a big production sawmill? They roll the log up and go, and it's dead done. I mean, yes, my son's sawmill that he worked at, they closed it down, but they had lasers and x-rays and they could look at a log and come up with the best way to possibly produce it. But he told me one day, he said, Dad, I get it. I said, what do you get, son? He says, I get why people pay you to do what you do, because your stuff that you think is not very good quality would be our best quality stuff. So you ain't competing with them and they can't compete with you. Always important to remember that. Talking about price matching. Yes. So that's a different thing, right? So you can't price match typically a Home Depot or Lowe's or whoever for 2x4s, especially, the 93.5-inch studs or whatever they are today. I don't remember, 92.5. My memory's fading. It's been a long time since I framed houses. But you're right? I mean, they mass produce and mass sell. So if you're selling lumber and they're selling it at 50 cents a board foot, well, you probably can't compete with that, right? You probably need $1 a board foot, but that's okay. Mike also did a video that I thought was really great on why he milled different things, right? He found that 2x4s you can buy at Home Depot, but 1x20s you couldn't. So he was looking at the market and saying, where can I sell lumber? And when he couldn't sell lumber, he just didn't produce lumber to sell. He could do something else. And I think that's important too, right? Like Kevin, he'd only run his sawmill about 100 hours between the time he did the work over here in June and the time he came back in November and did the work. And this is a guy that will run his sawmill full time. But the market's in a lull, so he was running an excavator instead, right? Sometimes you got to diversify. All businesses tend to, right? So it's a matter of where you are. Like I know that in my area, as long as I'm willing to travel, I can keep pretty stinking busy, probably even right now. I'm not trying to. And I've had people calling me and emailing me, and I'm not advertising. I'm not even trying to get customers right now. And I have people trying to hire me to come out and sawmill for them. So I know that I could do it. But I'm also somebody that will drive 250 miles in my camper pulling my sawmill to go mill up 50 logs. So a lot of guys won't do that, right? And so I'll go places that nobody else will. The other thing is that I spend a lot of time educating my customers, which is one of the reasons I really got serious about YouTube, because I could show my customers my videos and say, here's how the operation goes. This is what you can expect. And in fact, I've done videos for you just with that in mind, right? Like I've even said to folks, hey, take this video. This will show off bears how to off bear. And some of you have actually watched that video and said, I'm going to use this to show my customers what a good off bear looks like, right? So I think that's part of it too. Education, being willing to go somewhere, super flexible. Like I've often said, I know guys that will only mill on, like for dimensional, they're going to mill, for a 2x4, it'll be 1 3/4 by 3 3/4. That's what they're going to set their simple set at. And they're only going to do that. The customer doesn't want 1 5/8 by 3 5/8. They want, inch and, 3/16 or something crazy like that by, 7 3/16. They're not going to mill it. I will. It poses a challenge. I mill 1 5/8 by whatever, 1 3/4 by whatever, 1 7/8 by whatever, 2 inches by whatever, 2 1/8, 2 1/4 by whatever, if that's what the customer wants. And I will always try to educate the customer on what the best options are. But if some guy has got 50 logs and he wants true dimension 2x6s, well, then I'm going to mill true dimension 2x6s. If the next guy says, I'll take him at 1 7/8, well, then that's what I'll do. And I actually prefer that. If I'm going to mill nominal, right? Nominal is the actual dimension, not what you buy in the store. That's dimensional. So if I'm going to mill nominal 2x6, I'll often tell the customer, do you really need them 2 inches thick? Because I mean, they're going to dry anyway. So unless I mill them at 2 1/8 or 2 1/16 anyway, I mean, really, it needs to be 2 1/8, but that's another thing. Spruce SPF, spruce pine fir, in a 1x4 or 2x4, typically shrinks 1/16 of an inch in width. Okay, so you got to mill at least a 16th over. But on a full 2 inches, it's going to shrink a little bit more than that, and so you mill it an eighth over. But if they don't care, if they're like, whatever, I don't care. I mean, as long as it's real thick. I like to mill 1 7/8, and the reason is I set my simple set at 2 inches. Done. But you always got to remember, if you set your simple set like that, that you're losing 1/8 of an inch. So you're not producing 2-inch lumber. You're producing 1 7/8. So your last cut needs to be at 1 7/8, right? So what you have to do is on your first cut, you don't start at 12 inches. You start at 11 7/8. And then you hit your simple set and you'll go right to 1 7/8 and everything comes off the deck. That's another question I've had people ask me. How come my last board's always 1 inch when I'm cutting 1 inch lumber and I start at 12 inches? Because you're not milling 1 inch. If you set your simple set at 1 inch, you're milling 7/8. So you have to account for that when you start that first cut. And when you do what I do, which is mill any dimension the customer wants, then you've got to figure out your cant sizes either on the fly or, which you can mess them up, and I have, and you'll see that in my videos. Usually you'll see me skim cut somewhere if I screwed it up, or if I just don't bother. I'm like, whatever, I'm going to just start here and go, because I mean, you want me to mill 2 3/16 by 7 7/8 or whatever, right? I'm like, okay, I set the simple set and go try to knock the heart out somewhere in the middle. So message redacted. Middlefield, hey, there's another good one. Nice to see you, buddy. Try and buy non-standard sizes from Home Depot. That is exactly what I was saying earlier. 100%. By the way, congrats on your channel. It's doing great lately. I think that's awesome. Yeah, you're not, they can't compete with you. Home Depot cannot do what you can do. And I will tell you this, I've gone to Home Depot and seen knotty pine sell for $7 a board foot. If I can mill pine at $3.50 a board foot, I'd be a millionaire now, right? So, you might not be able to compete too well with them on 2x4s, but somebody go look up the price of a 2x4 stud at Home Depot for me, and then do the board foot calculation and give us a price per board foot on it. I'm curious if it's what it is, because I mill typically around 40 cents a board foot. So, and I mean, I can do that all day long. So I'm curious. You're milling rough sawn, so you're not milling S4S, right? I get that. You're not milling kiln dried, but can you mill 2x4s cheaper than someone can buy them at Home Depot? I will almost bet you that yes, you can. Did you just say skim cut? Oh yeah, buddy, I did. Let's see, 1x8 or 10 siding. We can absolutely blow the pants off the big box stores. We sell a lot of that for batten board. Absolutely, right? You kill them on that. Show me the store that does. I did wide plank flooring for the guy. You've probably heard, if you've ever heard me talking about milling 40,000 board feet for one guy, that was my biggest single customer, I think. I was milling wide floor planking for him. I was milling stuff like 1x20, 1x22. Is it going to cut? Depends on where it's cut. Some of it will. You split it in half and plane it down, it's going to be fine. But you can't get that. And so I have a charcuterie board downstairs that a customer made for me about 6 years ago. He had a walnut log, just one short, stumpy little log that I milled up for him. And there was some pretty nice wide stuff in there. Well, one day he walked over, knocked on the door and said, "Here, brought something for you." And it's like a maybe 18-inch by 12-inch chunk of walnut, well, that'd probably cost you like $30-40 at one of the big box stores just to buy the wood. And so hardwoods, you can compete with them all day long, 6-7 days a week till you're blue in the face, right? I'll bet you if Andy and Paul down there are selling lumber, that you guys got some beautiful stuff you're doing. And so tell me that you can't even buy that at a big box store, right? So I'm sure if there's a market, there has to be a market for it, right? So, wow, can you guys believe we've gone an hour and a half already? Yeah, because you know me and I've been talking and I always talk long. Let's see. Mike is correct on that. I don't mill big box store lumber. I mill all the odd stuff and large stuff. Yep. 100%, buddy. Absolutely. So, and I'm going to be doing a video on that topic as well pretty soon. I've been bantering that one back and forth because it's a bit of a challenge to get all the information together. But I think it's a good one to do. So, all right, let's do. We'll go a little bit longer. Let's get some questions out there. Any questions you got? Throw them my way. Secret to putting out shorts and getting 2,000 views in 2 hours? I can answer that. Let's see what we got. Let's see if I'm lying to you. Come on, here we go. Ready? 2,200. Oh, I'm not lying. There you go. YouTube questions, cabin questions, outhouse questions. Hey, you guys got to understand something. For whatever reason, the cabin, I have the composting toilet, but some guys just prefer to go out to the outhouse. And so Tim, my good buddy Tim, has helped out so much. He's really been a huge help for me lately. You've seen him in some videos. He's been doing some filming, and which is a bit of a new thing for him. He was really big into photography. He did a lot of photography stuff, but filming is different. And so he's kind of learning how to work around that, and he's just doing it for fun when he goes to the cabin. And what else is he going to do if I'm running the sawmill, right? I mean, he's done other things, but sometimes it's fun just to grab a camera. And so he's been doing that, and he's been a huge help for me out there. Old paratrooper, right? Tough guy. You'd never know it if you ever met Tim. He's this quiet, unassuming guy, but he's also, jumped out of airplanes a whole lot. So, but anyway, he's using the McPrivy, and which there's even a story behind that silly name. Of course there is, right? Because it's me. But and one day he says to me, he says, people like to, sit on the John and look at their pictures on their cell phone or read something or something. It'd be kind of nice to have a place to put my cell phone because I'm always worried. I don't want it to like fall out of a pocket and drop down the hole, right? So if you saw that video and I was talking about putting a Tim cell phone holder sign there, that's why that went in there. I made him sit on the pot and reach out to put his cell phone there to make sure we got the height just right for him. So that, when he set his phone down, he had a place to put it. And then I think my dad asked me, well, why do you have 3 coat hangers in your outhouse? I mean, well, you only need 1, right? And I'm like, well, no. I mean, you got a hat, you got a coat, you got a gun and a gun belt, right? I mean, doesn't everybody carry a gun in the woods, right? So anyway, there's a little bit more. Usually there's more to some of these stories than meets the eye sometimes. You're a licensed professional photographer and videoing is very different. Yeah, absolutely. One day I got some questions on solar. Well, ask the questions now, buddy. Don't mess around. Throw them out there. Solar questions I can answer. I built my own system. I did the research and started, and it is not the way it started. I built that system originally as a, hunting, vacationing cabin kind of setup where didn't need a lot of power, but wanted to have some lights. And I wanted to be able to run the fridge on electric and not propane. And so I put in the 3 initial solar panels, non-UL rated, first of all, right? So I'm not building a coded, there's not going to be some inspector come out and decide whether my stuff is perfect or not. And you can choose to use non-UL if you want. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just whether they paid to get the sticker or not, right? So I got them cheaper than you can get other solar panels. So I put those 3 panels in. I put them in a specific location based on 12 volt voltage drop over distance on a 10 gauge wire, then realized it would be better to run them in series. So I did and ran them in series, made the mistake of putting in a PCM controller. You can't run a 12 volt PCM controller with 70 volts coming in and expect to get maximum power out of it. That's what MPPT, maximum power point tracking charge controllers are for. So for those that aren't into solar, this might be a little crazy for you. But the bottom line is I built that system with the 3 panels, a charge controller, 6 batteries, and a modified sine wave inverter, and a separate charger for the batteries to run off a generator, to what I have today, which is completely different, right? 9 solar panels, pure sine wave, lithium batteries, you name it. But I also think that it's the best way to go if you're starting out, is to start small and work your way up, as long as you understand you're starting small. You know, if you want to power up something big, you got to know every wattage draw, really amp draw, of everything that you're running and the potential amount of use per day, all day long, and all that kind of stuff. So I have a spreadsheet that does that, actually. But so yeah, ask your questions, or ask them. You can ask them in my videos, but you can ask right now. If you ask right now, I'll answer. I will tell you that if you could put in a 48 volt system, I would. If I was going to do it today, I'd probably do that. 24 is fine. Don't bother with 12. People don't even make those anymore, hardly. I mean, it's no point in doing a 12 volt system anymore. 48 would be better. Smaller gauge wires, for one thing, right? Plus longer distance for runs from solar panels to your charge controllers, right? So over 50 feet, a 12 volt system will have up to a 3% voltage drop, which is maximum acceptable voltage drop over distance. But if you go to 24, you can, probably close to double that distance. Or if you do what I did, you run your solar panels in series, as long as your charge controller can handle it. I'm running 70 volts. So I can run, 100 feet. It wouldn't matter, right? It'd be fine. Just purchased something with solar. I wanted to upgrade, but that's one thing I'm lost in. I'll find out the system I got and tell you more about it. Yeah, do that. So if you bought a system, there's the problem. I'm wondering if you bought one of those solar generator systems. Those are different. They're typically a self-contained proprietary setup. Not that you can't do things and make them better necessarily, but that's kind of a different animal, versus unless you bought a kit that has like solar panels, charge controller, that kind of stuff. Like I bought one from Costco, back in probably 09, 2010. It must have been 2010. And it was like a 60 watt, 12 volt system with a charge controller, and I think maybe even a 200 watt inverter or something like that. And it worked for the money. It was okay. I still have the panels. I don't know if I have anything left of the rest of it. I don't use the panels right now. I was actually planning on putting them on the Taj McPrivy, believe it or not. I also been thinking about putting a PopCan solar heater on the Taj McPrivy. Might even put the one that's on the cabin now on there, but I may keep it where it's at and just rebuild it and put it back in place, because those PopCan solar heaters really do work. They're amazing. I mean, you just got to make sure you use good insulated or good insulation for the heat, right? Mine vaporized 2/3 of the insulation in the box because a one-way baffle closed, and my fan motor died, and it couldn't open up the baffle, and it just kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and literally vaporized my 300-degree insulation that was in there. Good thing the cabin didn't burn down. So, all right, we got 7:08, hour and 40 minutes. What questions you got? Last few. We'll throw a couple more out there. I'll give you a few more minutes, and besides, my bourbon 30 is almost gone. So here now you can read my glass that those of you may not have read. It's fading though. I need a new one. We the people are, and then that word's probably not acceptable on YouTube. Okay. That's the end of the bourbon. So what more do you got for me, folks? I got 12 of you out there. I love seeing you all here. I don't think I've noticed Middlefield on here. You might have been here, but I don't think you commented for. So nice to see you, buddy. And again, channel's doing awesome. And, again, congrats to Southern Adirondack Outdoors for breaking 1,000. That's a big accomplishment. Somebody keeps texting me and they need to stop, so I apologize. I usually try to turn that so that they can't, but I do always occasionally look. I don't know why she's sending it to me. But anyway, all right. Well, let me check this guy. Sorry. that was something else. Okay, what else we got? 12 of you there. I've told a lot of stories tonight. Rick and Tim are probably snoring in the background, or they're drinking coffee and trying to stay away from their rather cold sawmill. I think Steve is getting yelled at by Bonnie. Paul's yelling at Andy. John's still here, I think, but I don't know. He's been quiet. Good to see you and catch up. I'm trying to I lost it. I don't normally watch lives, but I do watch your videos. Well, thanks, buddy. Funny thing is, lives, I don't do them regularly. I am going to be trying to get to 2 a month, though. The reason I don't do more is because I travel to get to my sawmill. And even when my sawmill was here, I had to travel to get to the logs. So I'm typically gone at least one, and I'm planning on 2 weekends a month moving forward. So that's good for the content because I'll be there making content. But that means I can't do a live because I don't have internet at the cabin any longer. And my channel ain't big enough to afford, and I answer those questions too, by the way. If you really want to know what I made in my first month on YouTube, that's like one of the biggest things. You see like all these YouTube videos, like 400,000 million views, what I made in my first month. Guys, I made $89 in my first month on YouTube. There. Save you watching all those other videos. Actually, that's not true. My first full month, I made $139. So I monetized in August, and I think I made $89 in August. And then September, I was fully monetized for 1 month. I made $139. So, and I will tell you that I do typically make more than a lot of channels because I study YouTube and what you do. But that means I make like, $200 a month on YouTube unless something goes viral. My best month, I think, was about 450-ish, right around there. That's YouTube revenue. There's a difference, though, between YouTube revenue and what you can make on YouTube. My best months have been over $1,000, but not. So the YouTube revenue should only be like 1/3 of what you can earn on YouTube for anybody interested in monetization and how much you can actually earn. You can earn a pretty good amount of money on YouTube. Like channels with 100,000 should be making, probably at least 5, if not 10 grand a month, somewhere in that range. 10,000 subscribers, you can make $1,500 a month. Doesn't mean you will. That's 10,000 subscribers actually watching your long form videos. You can make about $1,500 a month on YouTube, at least with the old figures that I'm familiar with. But you could also make about $3,000 a month kind of outside of YouTube. And that's through affiliate programs and sponsorships and things like that. So can you make a full-time living running a YouTube channel? You can, but it's an awful lot of work. It's a full-time job. You're running a business. When I say that I edit videos like 40 to 50 hours a week, it's true. I do a lot of time. Now, I will tell you, if when I do only one camera, then I don't, right? Like if I were to film an entire weekend on one camera, I could do like 2 weeks of videos in probably like 2 days, right? I've put out, 2 videos almost back to back. And John may have noticed this recently where I put out a video and then like that same day I put another video out, and as members, you get to see those right away, often days in advance, even. Not always, but you do get to see them a lot of times. Like recently, I think my Tuesday video went out on like Thursday. So, he's got almost a week that he could watch that video before it goes live to everybody else. And one video editing is very easy, really. Honestly, you put your stream in your editing software, cut out what you don't want, throw in anything else you're going to do with it, a little bit of music here and there, or, thumbs up or whatever like that, and you're done. And you can do a 16-minute video in, almost 16 minutes, maybe an hour, 2 tops, right? I mean, it takes you a while to go through and cut everything, but it doesn't really take very long. It's when you do 3, 4, 5, 6 different cameras, that's when it becomes a full-time job. Then you're editing for hours and hours and hours. And rewatching it over and over and over again. Like a lot of, like if you've watched my Facebook, you'll see like I'm on the second render or the third render. I've done times where I've rendered 5 or 6 times sometimes, because you think, okay, I think I've got it. I think this one's ready for you, right? So you render it so that you could sit back and just watch it in a full screen and just see how it plays. And then you'll go, oh, and I'll take notes, like, 4 minutes, 57 seconds, fix that, and go through, and then I'll go back and re-edit it again. And usually when I edit it again, a lot of times I'll go back in and I'll be like, maybe I'll fix this, I'll fix that, I'll fix something else. So, you do all that. And since I render in 4K, and I'm filming in 4K now as well, it takes longer, even with my machine. I've got an 8-core system with 32 gigs of RAM, 10.5 terabytes of hard drive space, a fairly decent graphics card, Frankenstein's monster computer that I built myself. I've been building computers for a very long time, since early 90s. And, it takes a while to render. It just, I need even more stuff. I'd need like 64 gigs of RAM and the most modern graphics card and processor you can get, and it would still take a while. So from a channel perspective, none of that really matters. All that really matters is click-through rates and average view duration. Those are the only things you really need to pay attention to. If you put out videos and you're getting 50% average view duration or better, your channel is going to be a success. If your click-through rate averages out around 5%, it's going to be a success. I'm not telling you you're going to be Mr. Beast, because then you need 80% average view duration. But if you really want to do that kind of stuff and know how to do well and how to improve, those are two really, really, really important things to pay attention to. And then you've got to consistently put out videos at the same time, same day, same frequency, repeatedly over and over and over and over and over for months and months on end. Because as you do that, the YouTube audience, I don't say algorithm very often anymore because it's not the algorithm, it's the audience, gets familiar with that and watches it. And the more people that watch, the more often it will be shown to people to watch, and so on. And then, one important factor is also something called your engagement rate, which is if someone watches a video, for example, anytime any of the guys right here, right now in chat that have channels say, like, comment, or whatever, the truth is, if they're like me, they want you to comment because I want to answer you. I love to read the comments, and it's awesome. And I love to answer them, right? I just do. I enjoy it. I have fun. If you watch my videos, I'm going to answer your questions, period. You comment, hey, cool. I will reply to you. And that is called an engagement rate. And so anytime you like a video, it helps the video. You subscribe to a channel from a video, it helps. You comment, it helps. One of the biggest things you can do to help a channel out, share one of their videos. But those are all called engagement rates. And when YouTube computer systems, algorithms, I don't like to use that, but in this case, it really is the case. When they see that, they go, oh, people are commenting. People are saying stuff. They're sharing. They're hitting like. We should show this more. And I don't know if you can see this without vidIQ on YouTube. I use software called vidIQ that allows me to see what engagement rates are as well on everybody's channel. I can go look at MSD Making Sawdust and tell what your engagement rates are on your videos. I can't tell what your average view duration is, but I can see what your engagement rate is. And I can see what Out of the Woods' engagement rates are, right? So I can go and look and say, well, he's got a 3% engagement rate. That's pretty good. He's got 1%. No, it's okay. He's got 17%. He's killing it. He's going big, right? But anyway, so there you go. There's a little bit of insider info for you that, some guys make whole videos on that. You never know what you're going to get in one of my lives, folks. All right. You still work 7 to 5 days a week and mill. Hey, that's tough. So have a good night. All right, folks, time to go. It's 20 after. I think I'm going to call it. I'll give one more chance for a question. So if you're a latecomer and you had a question you wanted to ask, throw it out there now before I cut out, and I'll take a drink of water because my throat's getting dry. I'm out of bourbon. Okay, last question. Last question or comment? If you're typing, you better tell me now. Timothy, got anything? Did Sue ever join? I have a new subscriber, Sue. She's been awesome. She's watched like 100 of my videos, I think, in the last few days. So, wow, awesome. Love it, Sue. Thanks for being there. Thanks for commenting on every single video. Guys, if you run a YouTube channel and you have someone that will comment on every video they watch, that's the most awesome thing you can get. Period. End of discussion. Right? Any questions you ever have, put them in my video comments. I will answer you. You're not falling on deaf ears. Okay. So if you ever have a question watching one of my videos, I'll answer. Somebody, Sue asked me about the cold and bands and how it impacts them. I answer. Right. Any questions at all, I will answer them. You want to know what cameras I use? I'll tell you. Okay. And if you want to know more about the YouTube side of stuff, I'm happy to share that. I would probably do a members only YouTube live. And so for anybody that's thinking about being a member, I think if you're want to know more about YouTube, I study everything, folks. I've studied a lot of YouTube. I'd be happy to do that. I would do that on a members live, I think. Anybody else keep getting ads during this live? I forgot to ask you guys that. Have a good night, TBO. I forgot to ask you guys that. YouTube started monetizing lives like this, and it's been a while since I'd done one, so I forgot about those. What I was doing in the past is I would say, okay, since they're doing these lives, I will pause the lives, or not the lives, sorry, the ads, and I can pause them for like 10 minutes at a time. Usually I do it like if someone does like a super chat or super thanks or super sticker or whatever, then I pause for 10 minutes right off the bat. Otherwise, usually in the middle of a thought, I'll comment. Like if you comment about it, hey, pause the ads, I will do that. So you just got to let me know. I forget that they're running because I don't see them. So if you're seeing ads pop up and it's getting annoying, just drop a comment in there. I don't mind at all. I can pause it. Of course, I'm always thinking a super sticker would be nice because, the ads do kick in a little bit of revenue for me. I'll tell you the truth. A live without super stickers or anything of that nature probably makes me $2. So, I was talking about, building a business earlier and how you can't really count, how many dollars per hour you're earning. Well, when I do a live, I'm earning about $1 an hour. So that's because the ads are running, but I will pause them for you. Looks like Mike had a couple too. So, again, I will tell you this, when I get more members and I do a member live only, I will not have any ads running at all. Absolutely do that. And again, if one person throws a $2 super sticker out, I'll pause ads for 10 minutes on any of my lives immediately. Just hit the pause button. And again, if I'm in the middle of something and you've already had some ads, you're like, hey man, I've had a couple ads, can you pause them for a bit? I will pause ads. So honestly, don't be shy. I know, Timothy, you're not, and I apologize. I didn't think about this at the beginning because it's been a while since I did a live. But I will try to do another one in 2 weeks. So I will try to set that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to because I have a granddaughter with a big show on the 26th, and I was thinking of going to the cabin that week. So let me just look right now, and I'll tell you what we're looking at. So the 26th is that weekend. I will probably do a live on the 28th and then go to the cabin either that Monday or Tuesday and go during the week probably. So I'll try to put a live out for the 28th and start doing them every 2 weeks. And again, remind me about the ads. Otherwise, I'm going to forget. But if you're willing to take the time to come here and chat with me on a live, I'm happy to pause those as long as you tell me. So hey, don't be shy, buddy. I get it, right? Sometimes it's annoying and I don't want it to be annoying. So I'm happy to do that. But I'm always going to try to, plug the super sticker thing once in a while. It's like buying me a cup of coffee. So, all right, guys, listen, I'm going to call it a night. I think I'm going to pour another little bourbon and go watch a little TV with my wife, Darcy. So Oh, I'm going to hit skip ads right now. Look at that. The weird thing is I just saw something pop up that allowed me to skip ads. Maybe YouTube was listening in. Y'all have a great day. The Old Jarhead out.